With Allison Mack, who plays Marliese in the series, and Kalina Kiff, who is one of the co-creators and directors on the series. For you, Allison, it's got to be neat because after playing Chloe, although she did go bad once in a while, for the most part she wasn't bad. And to play somebody like Marliese, from what I've seen of her, especially with the mask and all, you get a little fun in kind of chewing the scenery a little bit with her.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a huge part of taking the show, was the opportunity to work with Kalina. As always, I'll do anything that she wants. And then the chance to play something so drastically different. The small times that I have been able to play that kind of a character on the show that I work on, it was like so much fun, like one of the most fun things I've gotten to do in a very long time. So the opportunity to create an entire character that is in that specific type most of the time was really like chocolate.
And with Riese, you also have a lot of input as to who the person is. It's not just, it's not just one way and that's the only way.
Well, that's, I think, probably one of the most intoxicating things about working on this show is that it is incredibly collaborative, incredibly creative, and you have the opportunity to really delve into characters that you would necessarily not be casting because of your typecasting in the industry outside of this world. So it's a luxury.
And Kalina, you pretty much directed most of the episodes.
Well, I directed half of them. Nicholas Humphreys directed the other half. I did have the pleasure of the Wolf unit on his episodes, so I got to direct all the second unit, a lot of stuff with the little boys when it wasn't our main cast. But yeah, I got to get my hands all over that thing.
And as I understand it, you're actually going back and able to reincorporate some of the footage that was just recently shot to the beginning to kind of fill in the story a little more.
Yeah, well, luckily our budget for our second episodes went up substantially, so we were able to take some of the higher production value and the new characters, because we introduced 4 new characters in the second chapter that will stay with us throughout. So we were able to introduce all of them, save Allison in the first episode.
I was actually able to see Ryan at Comic-Con, and actually I slipped in a Riese question during Sanctuary, and I like the fact that he's playing a very passionate type character, as opposed to Henry, who's a little bit more subdued.
Well, it really came down to what Allison was talking about. By letting our actors have a creative input and collaborate with us, we get a more honest, more exciting performance for them, because that's what they wanted to do with their characters. So what greater investment can we give them in the show than being able to play the parts they want to play? So I sat down with Ryan and said, what have you always wanted to try? He said, I want to be a romantic lead. I want to be an action hero. And I said, all right, do both. So honestly, we're so lucky. They make us look so good.
And Allison, how much input did you have on the look of Marliese and how she looks and dresses?
A lot of the character was designed by our amazing design team. So I didn't have a whole lot to say with respect to my costume or my mask. Those were kind of gifts that were given to me that I ran with, which was fantastic. And then the lips was my favorite, I think, part of the costume, even more so than the mask. I have these fantastic candy apple lips. And I have a whole story that I made up about why they're like that and what effect that has on her personally. But Kalina, you saw.
Oh, I was they actually fit the costume on me.
Did they?
Because you were out of town when we were doing our first costume fitting, so with some adjustments, it all worked out well. Her feet are bigger than mine.
Right, right.
Yeah, so I was kind of clunking around in her sexy boots. But yeah, we got to rebuild it a little bit once she came in. But the lips was a look that Alyssa and Katie Satow, our makeup team, and we bounced ideas back and forth and finally settled on that. And they're actually outlined in black. They're so hot.
Yeah, they're pretty fantastic. I am adding a whip to my costume. Yes, that I did.
Begging for whip. Because you can hear it crack. Even when there's no whip there, she walks on set and you hear whoosh.
Yeah. So. It's good. And the gloves.
Oh, the gloves.
So more physical for you too, this role?
Physical in a different way. I mean, I've always done pretty physical stuff in my job, but the physicality of this character is so much who this character is, because she's very discreet in her attempts to do the things that she's trying to do. I don't want to give too much away. So a lot of her intention breathes through her body and not through her words, which is really fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to tell you, right from the beginning on Smallville, I noticed there was something very special about Chloe.
Thank you.
I think a lot of it had to do with you.
Thank you.
I don't think they knew what they cast when they got you into that role.
I'm not sure. Thank you.
I mean, in a good way. What's been really cool is watching her develop. I love her one-liners; they're excellent. And really also seeing you develop as an artist and directing the episodes.
Than's you.
Certainly, if Riese needs another director, you got one right
Don't
here.
worry, she's top of the list.
We've talked about it.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you have a limited role this year on the show. So how does
On
it feel?
Smallville or on Riese?
On Smallville, yeah. So how does it feel to, I mean, it's being put to bed pretty much and going out into history. How does that feel for you after all these years?
Great. I'm proud of it, and I don't feel like it's too soon for it to end. I think it's time. And I am thrilled and excited to be moving on to a different chapter in my life. I feel like I've got a master's degree in television, and I'm ready to move on to something else. I will miss the family that I have in Vancouver, because everyone that I worked with up there for the last 10 years definitely feels that way. But I'm really excited about closing that chapter and opening a new one, and I'm looking forward to really see what everybody does. I mean, from Kelly Souders and Brian Peterson, who've been running the show for the last few years, to Tom Welling, to, you know, everybody. We have a really lovely team, and I think that we'll all do really interesting things. So I couldn't be more pleased with the position that I'm in right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're directed, Tom's directed. I mean, a lot
Justin
of you.
Hartley's directing this season.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah,
That's
Justin
awesome.
wrote one last season. It's
Yeah.
it's a really amazing set in that it's very inclusive. A lot of people have worked their way up on our show, which is really a really beautiful thing to see. So unique, I think.
I really enjoyed it. I just went with a different take on Superman and, you know, him growing up and introducing the powers and everything. And it really it was like the kryptonite beast of the week or whatever.
Yeah.
And it really moved into something else, and
Yeah.
it's really amazing. But I'm really glad we kind of discovered you through that show.
Thank you.
I mean, it's really been amazing to watch your growth. And actually, one thing I want you to comment on, I was contacted. This is how they impacted the character by a group, the Chloe Sullivan Project.
Yeah. I know
mean,
those girls.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing that a character inspires that many people.
Really, actually, unbelievable. And it's surreal and sort of hard to grasp the reality of that. You know, every time I went into a room for a woman the other day to audition for something that she was doing, and we both said at the same time, I'm such a big fan. And I was like, wait a minute, that's not the way this works. You know, it's incredible to start to receive feedback like that. And, you know, you do your job. Every day you go to work and you do your job. And I don't think that you realize, I don't think I realize how many people watch the show and the kind of effect that it has and could have. And so when you kind of pull your head up for a second and get your nose off the grindstone, see what else is going on around you, you really get the opportunity to hear the applause. And that feels so good.
Kalina,